Hello, friends. I'm Cece. I will be your host and your new friend, and I have entered the group chat. This is Noted Out Loud, episode 1. Note to self: stop overthinking everything. I probably should tell you guys a little bit about me and a little bit about this podcast. So I decided that, okay, how can I give this a voice, and how can I give my notes to myself a voice and share them with you all? And so this is that thing. And I decided to just do it. I didn't overthink this, or at least I'm trying my best not to overthink this, and just have it, just do it, give it a face, and give it life. And I decided to do the first note of stop overthinking everything as the first episode, because it's such a common thing that happens to a lot of us. And I know it happens to me. I don't like this, but I consider myself to be undiagnosed ADHD. And so for all my ADHDers out there, I'm sure this definitely happens to you more often than not. I decided to create this podcast because I wanted to have a space that is a little bit more free flowing, something that where I can talk about things that are on my mind and are happening in my life currently, and share some insight, share some wisdom, and even share experiences, my experience. So this is what I came up with, and I am hoping that you guys enjoy it. I'm hoping that these notes that I write to myself. So I love stickies. I love Post-it notes, and I'm always writing stuff down. Like, if you take a look inside my phone and my notes app, hundreds upon hundreds of just little notes to myself, bits of inspiration, to-do list, everything is listed there. Now, note taking is so important. Like, notes to yourself or notes to about anything. It's just such a good way to keep track of like the day-to-day and just like the things that like inspire you or the things that catch your eye. And so I was thinking, okay, so I wanted a platform, and I wanted a platform that I could have, that I could be very consistent with, like really no excuse not to post, not to, create. And I was like, okay, well, podcasts are all the rage. Let me just hop on this bandwagon, hop on this train. And I was like, okay, well, what is me? Like, what could I, like, what do I have to say? Well, I have a bunch of notes to myself and things that I'm always just like writing down, wanting to come back to, or wanting to just like revisit to hopefully be re-inspired. And so here we are. I decided, okay, well, and I also consider, so you guys will get to know me, but I consider myself to be the person that will say what everyone is thinking. Usually it's just what I'm thinking, but I like to think that I can read people and read a room really well, that I can kind of understand the general vibe and like what's happening between the lines or what's going unsaid. And I am not afraid to be the person to say the thing that nobody else wants to say. Like, I thrive on that type of chaos. And what better place to start than right here, right? So this is going to be a conversation, a way for me to create community around things, to just like things happening in my life, and things that are just like insightful reflection, or things I think maybe will empower or inspire. I don't know. I don't claim to be, I'm not an empowerment person. I mean, I enjoy doing those things, but I don't consider myself someone who, like, I don't consider myself anything that people need. Like, I may say something that inspires you, and that's great, and I hope that I do, but I'm not a coach. I don't consider myself to be like an empowerment coach or all these things. I claim nothing. I claim to be myself, and I claim to say some cool things and talk about some cool things and be funny now and again. So that is going to be my claim, my disclaimer. And I am, what am I? Oh, and I'm supposed to be telling you guys about me. So, and I'm me, and what do I do for a living? Exist and I create. So I am existing through this where we exist, and I am living out my life. And I am like, this is what I do. This is what I do for a living now. Or at least this is what I'm telling you and what I'm telling myself that I do for a living now. I'm a content creator. I'm a writer, and I am the director of my new life. And more about that later. So, okay, stop overthinking everything, and let's start with the podcast. This idea came out of thin air like a week ago. So kudos to me for not overthinking it, or at least trying not to overthink it, because you have to just do it. It's so easy to be it's so easy for us to be our own worst enemy, and your mind will give you a million reasons of like why you shouldn't do something, but the real reason and the only reason that matters is why not. Like that, like honestly, that is the only reason that matters. And the other biggest piece of it is not only why not, but the fear the fear of rejection and the fear of it not working out. And I'm here to tell you, as you get to know me, you will find out that, there's been a lot of rejection happening over the last 12 months in my life. But I found this little quote, and I like to say it to myself a lot now. Rejection is protection. And that, in literally rejection from my previous daytime work, the rejection I received from previous daytime work. So I have decided to go into content creation. Like I said, being a content creator, I've decided to write. So I am now a content creator, a writer, a director, and a communications guru is what I'll say. It's like digital media, like strategic communications, and and ultimately just an excuse to go to events and be a socialite. I like to call it the modern day socialite. So, and not pretend, but like actually be cultured and talk about cultured things. So, so with that, I ended up getting, I don't want to, I feel like I always talk about this, but it's the first time that it's ever happened to me. And I think my mind is just like, we're not going to make this our personality, but this is an important thing that has happened to us. So I got laid off from my corporate job back like a year ago. Almost, honestly, it's slowly inching up on a year. And it's pretty crazy that it's already almost been a year. It's like a couple months from a year, which is insane. Actually, it's probably less than that, because I think I got like my letter, I had like the 15-minute meeting. It was like early February. So it's crazy that it's in, and then I was like, finally, like my last day was at the end of like March. So like just in spring. So that was my rejection. And all of that, like going through that and the shock of that, and then just like having to pivot and figure out what I'm going to do in my life, and then going through a bunch of things and then healing and doing a bunch of other things. And all of that has led to this moment right now of creating this podcast. And so I'm telling you, do not overthink it. Just do it, because it is going to be scary. It is going to be like is going to feel cringe. It's going to feel just out of pocket, but it is going to be worth it. And even if you decide to do it and you realize that it's not something, you do something and you realize it's not for you, at least you did it, because you would have not ever known that it wasn't for you if you didn't do it. So, and a lot of the number one thing that holds us back from doing that is fear. And that's okay, because fear is good. Fear isn't bad. It just doesn't know what's happening. And this is just like the science of it. The science of it is that it's human nature to feel fear. You're supposed to feel fear. If you don't feel fear, then, there are other bigger questions at play. But like, it keeps you alive. However, in our society where you don't have to, worry about getting attacked by a bear or some crazy thing, but honestly, I mean, at the rate that the world is going, we might have to worry about those things again. But in the right now, you don't. And so our fear will creep up in things that, we should be doing, or maybe we should think about doing, and it can get the best of us. So you have to really try and like push yourself sometimes to do the thing anyway, and really just give yourself a grand illusion that you can do this, or you can see that you did this. You can say that you did this and then figure out where you want to go from there. And more importantly, stop overthinking, because speaking of time and speaking of current events, stop overthinking, because we don't know what's going to happen next. Like right now, the state of California is still on fire. Very sad atrocity happening. People have lost their lives, and we don't know what's going to happen next. So if it's not you not overthinking because you need to get out of your own way, whether it's fear, because that's a huge one. Even if it's not the fear though, think about the time that is ticking, that we do not know how much of it we have left. And I mean, if you want me to get a little bit conspiracy theorist, we probably have a good 20 years. Like, and that might be pushing it. Like we might have a good 20 years, before things just like start really and really just like popping off, and little things about starting an art project or just doing something crazy is going to be the least of our worries. So we don't know how much time, and not even about like your life, but just like the collective in general. So I don't know about you, but I know that whether we have 5, 10, 20 plus, hopefully, I don't want to spend it like, I don't want to spend it not knowing what else I could do, or like what else I could accomplish, and not even just accomplish, but enjoy. It's like I'm learning, and over this past year I've learned we need to enjoy life. Life is not meant to be work, or just doing all the hustle, bustle. It's meant to be rested, meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to fulfill your desires and really be happy, and try and be happy like every single moment. And I mean like pure joy, like things that put a smile on your face, or things that make you giddy, just like little crazy stuff. We should be doing that all the time. And so I am here to share that do not let your brain think you out of a good time, because that's not living. And what did I say I do for a living? I live. I exist, and I live, and I create, and you should too. And that is what led to me creating Noted Out Loud, because I want to share what's on my mind with everyone. I am the person that will always say what everyone's thinking. I enjoy that type of chaos. And I really want to start a conversation everyone's like TikTok might get shut down. Everyone's moving to Insta. Like everyone's moving to long form content. So this is my making long form content, which I do have another platform that I make content on. It is more focused on it's more thematic based, and not to say that these episodes, like, we clearly have topics that we discuss, but this is a simpler way for me to create a community and be consistent with that community, and an easier way to engage as I continue to grow my other platform, and also just talk about the things that are currently happening in my life and not have to be tied to like a specific event or something that I read or something that I watched. Just everyday life, just more kind of on the everyday. And so the science of overthinking is this: when us humans, we are ritual beings. Like we thrive in rituals and routines and patterns, and so a lot of the patterns that we have become accustomed to are things that we have been doing since we were young children. And so we fall into patterns, and our brain thinks in these patterns. And so when you decide to do something that goes against the normal routine or the normal pattern, that's when that fear enters the chat. That's when that fear props up and says, oh my gosh, like, what is going on? Why are we doing this? This is like out of the norm. Should we be alarmed? And that's when you have that fear, because that fear is like, are you in danger right now? You're doing something that's out of the ordinary. Like, are you in danger? And it doesn't know, your wires don't know that you're trying to do something to elevate your life, or you're trying to do something positive. It can't tell the right from wrong. And this is why we get stuck in bad patterns and bad cycles, because we are cyclical beings, but our physical bodies cannot tell the difference of this cycle is not healthy, this cycle is healthy. That is for us and our subconscious or our conscious mind to determine, and we have to come to that conclusion. Like, your brain has to actively come to that conclusion, else from your thoughts and from kind of like how the situation makes you feel at the end of the day, but it's not going to like do the work for you. It's going to just keep you where you're at, because it's like, this is what we used to, this must be it. Like, I'm just here to protect you in this body. I'm here to protect your consciousness in this body. So our fear will creep up in things that we really don't want it to, because it's something that good that we want it to do. And so you really have to push yourself and not push yourself in a bad way, but push yourself in a way that will help you do what it is and be less afraid each time. So, I mean, I've not ever done a podcast before. This is the first time I'm doing a podcast, and I am going to admit that I have taken more takes for this episode than I would like. And that's okay, because it's a structure that I am going to be getting used to. And while I enjoy talking and I enjoy yapping, I have not done a ton of it yet on screen, but we are doing that now. And so I'm going to get used to this, and it's going to become second nature at some point. It's going to become my new normal. However, there is steps to being there, because it wasn't a cycle that I've done a ton of times before. So it's something new. So my body's a little bit like, hey, hey girl, hey. But then you do it, and then you enjoy it, and you find your groove, and then you're like, okay, this is something that we like, so this is something that we want to keep doing. So that's the science of it. The science of it is your body lives, especially for your body lives in routines, either routines or cyclical, depending on man, or most men live in routines and things like that. But women are more kind of like cycle oriented in terms of just how their body functions. And so, but regardless of that, your body enjoys these patterns, but your body cannot tell whether the patterns are good or bad. So that is for you and your conscious mind to determine, this is a good pattern, this is unhealthy, we need to change this. And that change is going to be scary. it's going to prompt the fear, the initial fear that your body is the instinctual fear. But then you recognize that you are not in any immediate danger and that this is just an instinct, and then you keep going. And then eventually you will not get that instinctual fear. It will become the new pattern. It will become the new cycle. It will become the new normal. So there. Does that sound easy enough? And I say all that to say that, yeah, that you, and you know what is really, so we talked about, so we're trying to stop overthinking everything, but we've realized that it can be really hard because we can be our own worst enemy, and we end up being our own worst enemy because we feed into the fear, and we feed into that instinctual, that initial instinct of, why are you doing this? This seems scary. This is, are you in danger? That instinctual wire. And we start to play out all these scenarios. Potentially, if you are ADHD, you are probably playing out catastrophe thinking. And no shade to my ADHDers. I believe that I am undiagnosed ADHD most likely. So I get it. And we have this fear, and it's a different pattern. It's stepping out of what we've known, and it takes time, one, but we should do it because we don't know how much time we actually have left. And because we don't know how much time we actually have left, this should be a reason for us to really try and like push ourselves to enter into a new pattern that involves whatever new activity or whatever thing, whatever goal we're trying to accomplish that is outside of our current reality or outside of our current norm. And in order to do that, a couple things kind of start to come into play. So the first thing that comes into play is that it may start bringing up, like, the more things you do that are like good for you, but like also like maybe having you enter just like a higher level of being, or of yourself and like your lifestyle, or just like your life in general, like you're leveling up. It can cause you to have to deal with other things that you are maybe like shuffling under the rug, or other things that may have happened to you, like traumatic stuff that you may need to have healed from, relationships, and how you've been moving through the world, and maybe there's some issues with that, and in order, you can't fully embrace like this level up until you've like addressed those issues. And so, and I can say this because over the last year since my initial rejection that kind of popped everything off, I already was on a journey of I was on a physical and mental journey to like this healthier lifestyle. I stopped going to therapy, not by choice, but by circumstance. Something happened, and I ended up I guess this is relevant because healthcare in America. So in early 2023, I believe, I ended up randomly, and I'm going to say randomly because they weren't able to explain. When I say they, I mean the health group that I was receiving my therapy through. So I had a therapist and I had a psychiatrist at one point, and then I kind of did choose to stop seeing my therapist, but I still saw my psychiatrist because I can still have therapy sessions with my psychiatrist. And so he was associated with this medical group, and all of a sudden, and also just for context, I was seeing a psychiatrist because they are the ones who can prescribe medication, and I was on medication at the time. And so out of nowhere, I get a letter, and also, so this actually is a good story, and maybe it's not fully related to our episode, but it's still a good story. But so I get this letter in January, I believe it was. And so I was going through, I didn't know it at the time, but I was going through seasonal depression, and I didn't realize it was seasonal depression because it had never registered to me that I could have seasonal depression. And I knew that it was a thing, but it wasn't a thing for me. So I just remember receiving this letter, and this is probably, I don't check my mail. So, and when I do, I'm like, stuff like this happens, and I'm just like, this is why I don't check the mail. But I checked my mail, I get this letter in the mail, and it's like, we are dropping you as a patient of this medical group. We can no longer, because, and the reasoning was because we can no longer provide you services. Just the most generic crap. Okay, and this is when I still have my full-time job, very good healthcare, Aetna PPO, and I yeah, and I'm with this medical group, and all of a sudden I think now, thinking back on it, my psychiatrist probably left the group, or something happened in terms of just like organizationally and operationally, but I got no context around this, and I still don't have context to this day from anyone. And I get this letter that I'm being dropped, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I've done nothing wrong, but just pay you to provide me healthcare services. And you send me a letter out of the blue saying that you are dropping me. Dropping me. So where am I going to where am I going to continue my services? You offer no referrals, nothing to, like, what if I was like, had something worse than just, needing, having ADHD? What if it was a really serious condition and you just drop me, and there's no plan, there's no preventative, or there's no like action to like help this patient? And so that just sent me for a loop, believe it or not. Like, I feel like the letter was so simple, and the situation, even though it's not small, it just, like, I feel like it could have been like, someone could consider it to be small, but it just was like so big to me in that moment. It was like devastating. Like, I ended up, like, I just sat there and I'm just like, they're just like not gonna give me healthcare, and I literally started bawling. Like, I just remember being in my apartment, and I just like started crying. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like, there's no contingency. And I think it was like a big deal for me too, because I have been doing therapy for quite some time, like 4 or 5 years or so. I think I started back in 2017, and since then, I have had a couple of therapists. So, since then, so for me, it's always felt like a big deal to go to see a new therapist. It's like, oh no, you have to, or just go see someone new. And I think this happens a lot, even when you go to like your medical doctor. It's just like, you have to tell them the history again. You have to give them the whole story, the whole rundown, like all over again. And sometimes that could feel so big and just such a charge to have to do that. And so I was just thinking about all that, and I ended up in this catastrophe thing, and just like spiraling down in this massive overthinking journey, because I was also I was going through some seasonal depression and didn't realize it, but just going through this massive overthink journey. And that just like led to like a bad place of just like being in this funk, and just like not knowing how to deal with it. And so ultimately, it's kind of a blur between then and like when I think I was just raw dogging it and just like getting through life, because this I do not recommend. But I was on medication. I was on Zoloft, and I was on Klonopin. And because I was dropped and I didn't know what to do, and I probably should have reached out to my psychiatrist, but I was like, I also can be kind of like, they should reach out to me. I can be kind of like, I don't know if it's egotistical, but I can just be kind of like bullish about this. And so I was like, you should reach out to me. And I don't know. And also, I just didn't see, I feel like my psychiatrist is not at fault about this. Like, I just think something, I don't know. Regardless, I needed to refill my medication, but I didn't have any way to do that. And so I was like, you know what? This is a sign. I shouldn't be on the medication. I shouldn't be taking it. So I decided that I wasn't going to take the medication anymore. And I actually cold turkeyed myself off of it. And I do not recommend that. And if you are thinking about that, think harder and think longer about doing that. I ended up okay doing that. But I also realized, because even though I was going through all this, I do prepare for stuff pretty well. Probably the Virgo in me. But I realized, like, okay, well, clearly clearly therapy, this isn't going to be the way for me, at least not right now. And honestly, I've been going consistently to someone for a while, for some years. And so I felt like I was in a good spot potentially, unbeknownst to myself, but claiming it now that I can find other ways to have a mindful lifestyle and be better about this. So I ended up finding a meditation app, and I ended up using that, and I'm like, okay, I am going to have to use something else to be like that consistent piece, so I can continue to have this mindfulness and continue to have something similar to this that is just as healthy in my life, so I can continue to deal with life. So I decided to pick up meditation. That was the answer. And so because I told myself, like, if I come off this medicine, I definitely do need something to help me through, because I ended up on a medicine because I would get panic attacks and anxiety. ADHD, undiagnosed ADHD, but diagnosed anxiety. So this is what I would do to still have some face of consistency and some support in terms of just how I'm handling it, and this is some journey of mindfulness. So I ended up taking up meditation, which has been the best thing that could have ever happened to me. But at the time I had just started, so this is not like a graceful thing, and it took a long time for me to get consistent, and I really had to start off with just like a few minutes a day, and because it can be tough to like get into your mind. But I say all that to say that when you're on a path to stop the overthinking comes, it stems from other things that have happened to you, or just how you operate and how you move through the world. And so when you start to change that, you start to encounter other things that you might have to change, or just other ways that you should live. For me, I ended up realizing that I needed to be on a more consistent, healthier, more accountable mental journey. And I ended up doing that through meditation, even before I got to like where my world blew up. But that was good that I was doing that, because ultimately that was going to happen, and me being in meditation was going to save me from having a big old anxiety, or having my anxiety kind of take over. And then also, just on a side note, I decided that I wanted to go on a healthier physical journey, because I was going to all these weddings that my friends have been having, and I was not only was I not in a good headspace, but I also did not like the way I looked at the time. I just felt unhealthy, and I was, approaching weights that I had never approached before. I'd never been that size before, and I didn't enjoy it, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So I'm like, okay, things need to change. So 2023 was when I started to really, and I would say 2023 into 2024. 2023 from the mental aspect, because I realized that there was a lot going on mentally, and so coping through that with meditation now. And then to 23 into 2024, realizing that like, okay, this is where I want to do more about my physical health. So, 2023, like midsummer of 2023, I'm like having all these weddings. I'm like, okay, I have another wedding that I'm very important bridesmaid in August, and I want a summer body. And so I started to work on that of summer of 23. Okay. And then fast forward, that takes me to 2024, and my whole entire life blows up. I get laid off, and so I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And so that leads me to here. And I say all that to say, you have to stop overthinking. But when you do, it's gonna bring up other stuff. And even before, you might already be experiencing this, which is why I told those stories, because I was already just experiencing random things that was really, I thought, it seemed like things were happening to me, but really they were happening for me, because they were preparing me for the next thing that was going to happen, that was going to shift my life, and the next thing that was going to happen that was going to shift my life. And I say that because when you start to do because I've continued to do things, and I'm continuing to shift, and things will continue to come up, and you have to know that that's going to happen, and that it's okay when that happens. Which brings me to my next point, that there is a level of delusion that you just have to start living in and have to start sitting in, because you're going to do these things and you're going to be like, can I really do this? Like, is this really possible? And the answer is yes. The answer is always yes. We are literally on a floating, what did Hervey say? We're on a, Queen Hervey, she's a musician. We're in a meat suit on a floating ball, floating through, who knows, floating through dark matter. Like, anything is possible. And you have to really start to get into that mindset that it really is. And not only is it possible, it's possible for you and it's possible for whatever you want to do, whether it's something so small, you want to learn how to draw, you want to play the piano, or whether it's something so big, you want to you want to be on a stage, or you want to learn to fly a plane, or you want to bungee jump off the highest mountain. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. You can do it. And you just have to have a level of delusion that'll help you get there, because that is the other piece, is getting through the fear, and then to stay through getting through the fear is being delusional. Yeah. And then, yeah. And that really, I mean, that's something that I have been learning as well, is that like I realize I tell my friends like what I'm working on and what I'm doing and what is like getting me excited, and I'm just like, they don't understand that, I don't, they haven't said anything crazy but if they're thinking it, I'm just like, it doesn't matter because I'm going to do it anyway. Like that is the level of like, you have to know, like, I am for sure, like some of the things I'm telling my friends are just like, oh my gosh, like, what is Cece doing? Like, she's always doing something. And you are right. I'm doing something, and that something is going to be so great. And like, but that's like the mindset you have to have. You just have to know that this is going to be awesome and this is going to work out, and only delusion lives here. Like, you know who my current roommate is? I mean, technically I live by myself, but only delusion lives here. So only Delulu lives here. So you have to just go with it no matter how crazy it is, and it will work, and it will work out. It will work out. And it also will get you out of the overthinking space, because you will be so caught up in it working that it, like, you will be doing it consistently, or you'll be doing that thing that you've wanted to do or wanted to try, and it works out because you're just like, yeah, I knew it was gonna work out. I knew that all along. So yes to that part. Okay, I'm going to switch gears, but this is something that I want to say because this also plays into the not overthinking it. You just have to just not overthink it, but also believe in yourself. When you stop overthinking it, you start to believe. When you stop overthinking everything, you start to believe in yourself a lot more. And yeah, a lot of the Delulu helps you get there, but you start to believe in yourself a lot more, and you should be looking to yourself. You are your own idol, and you should only be looking up to yourself. And when you stop overthinking things, it allows you to believe in yourself, and it allows you to look up to yourself more. Like, something that grinds my gears, I guess this is like the hot take of the week, random hot take of the week, is people who, is when, someone has like an idol or like someone that they look up to. Like, the only person you should be looking up to is yourself. And this happens a lot with athletes, because they see, which is great. You need to be inspired by people that you see, especially when those people look like you, or they're doing something, or they're doing something that you want to do, or that you're inspired to do, or that you enjoy doing. But you should not put them on a pedestal. You should not see them as higher than yourself. You should only see yourself as higher than yourself. And I say that because we're only human. And when you start to and this also ties into, I think, social media today. Like, when you see other people online and, that discourages you, and, you get into that comparison mindset, it's because you are placing someone else on a higher sphere than where you are. And only you should be on that higher sphere. Only you should be up there. This happens to athletes a lot, and they have these idols or these people that they look up to, and then they end up being good enough to play these people, or they're in the same league together, and they end up being disappointed, or they're because the person may be good at the sport or the thing, the activity, but they're not actually a good person, or they're not actually good at socializing, or you guys just don't vibe. And you can't blame them for that, because yeah, they inspired you to do that activity as well, to play that sport, but that was it. You aren't meant to put people higher than yourself. Like, you should be looking up to you. Everything you do should be because like you haven't done it yet, or you did it and you need to do it better. Like, it is like, this is your movement, your world, and it's about how you are moving and how you can improve on yourself and how you can be better than yourself. Just how you can be your own worst enemy. You can also be your own idol. You can be your own best friend. You can be your best friend. Like, this is you. Helps you get out of your comfort zone. Now, no, I'm not knocking the people who enjoy being in their comfort zone, because it's nice living in comfort. The goal is to live in joy. I think you can find comfort and joy, but in some of us, and your comfort zone isn't always like bad. Like, you can have a healthy or good comfort zone. And a lot of us want to stay in our comfort zone. Some of us are like, yeah, Cece, you're talking about like not overthinking, and that's cool. You're talking about not overthinking, and that's cool. But I am not going to not live in my comfort zone. Like, and you're talking about, but you want to do something, and it's gonna mess with your cycle if you step out of your normal cycle, because it causes fear. And I'm okay with just like not engaging in that and just living in comfort zone, and that's fine too, and I can speak to that too, because I look at all the ideas that I have right now and everything that I am wanting to work on and am working on, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I really should have started this like several years ago. Like, why didn't I do that? And I didn't do that because my goal, like what I was prioritizing, was to live in comfort and in a certain comfort zone. And that comfort zone just didn't include doing anything that was going to put me out there. And what it included is kind of this controlled sense of comfort, of just like, I had been through a lot of like, I want it normal, and this is why I understand the people who choose to just live in their comfort zone, and while it's kind of disappointing, especially if you see potential for them to do more, but they're just like, I'm just choosing to do this because this is what it may not be making them like reach their full happiness or give them the highest level of joy, but it's not disappointing them, and that's understandable. But when I was in this space, I realized I did not do social media earlier, or I didn't like stick with it, because I realized there were like inklings of things happening, but I wasn't staying with it, and I wasn't keeping it going. And I wanted to give myself what I thought was normal and some normalcy, because while, I have grown up in very loving environments and things like that, it still was very unstable and just not in the comfortable environment for me to be my truest self or enjoy my truest passions. So when I became an adult and I graduated from university and I started just being able to fully live my own life, I was just not tired, but a little bit exhausted, and just like, I just want to be in a space where it feels normal, like a stable normal, and it's a bubble, and it feels comfortable, and I don't have, all my problems aren't real, and like I used to say, like, only half my problems are real, and I wanted to live in that space, but also being in that space meant that I wasn't going to be venturing too far outside of it, or doing just things that would put me in a different place where it would be too unknown. And even then, I still did things that were like I never thought I would do. I mean, I created a career for myself, and I worked, did things and worked at places, and found activities that I never thought I would find. But it was still within this like controlled bubble of this is where things happen when I say they happen, and just kind of just like not rocking the boat too much. And the universe gave me 10 good years of that. The universe is like, fine, you want to not rock the boat too much? Sure, we'll give you 10 years. We'll give you a good decade of doing that. And then after that, you're going to have to like get back on your path. We'll let you have this side quest. We'll let you have it. And so I say that to say that, you might be that person, or you might encounter those people who want to get out of their comfort zone, but they're not going to like give the effort to do so, or they realize that they're okay with being in their comfort zone because that is what there's something in their comfort zone that they're prioritizing and they're choosing to have, and they are fine with that. And then there's other people who don't realize that their comfort zone might be a very unhealthy place, not a great place to be, but they are so wrapped up in it that they cannot wrap themselves out, because that would be a lot of work. Which also takes me back to my point when I was talking about you should be your own idol, and if you can't look up to yourself, you have work to do. Like, you should be able to look up to yourself. Like, you should be your own idol, and you should be somebody that you would look up to. If you are not someone that you would look up to, you have work to do. And that also is like a thing. And you might discover that and be like, wow, this is bringing up a lot of other stuff that I wasn't really ready to deal with. But if you want to really get yourself to a place where you're not overthinking everything, you have to face some of that extra stuff. And that includes being a person that you would look up to, because the only people that you should be looking up to, and the only person that you should be looking up to, is yourself. And I will die on that hill. No, overthinking is just your body and mind thinking that you're doing the most. But if you're not harming anyone else or yourself, doing the most is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. I love doing the most. Honestly, my thought process is if you are not doing the most, you're not doing enough. The best way to stop overthinking is literally just to not think and to do things without thinking. Being a little spontaneous and having a little spontaneity has not ever hurt anyone. And if it has, then they probably were doing something they weren't supposed to be doing anyway. I say all that once again to say, note to self, stop overthinking everything. You will be okay. And when you start doing the things that you didn't think you can do, it opens up your world, and you do them, and you don't care what you look like, how it comes off, what anybody. And sometimes you do. Like, there are people who, and you can be self-conscious and maybe a little bit, I mean, this is pushing it, but maybe a little bit insecure, and still do things, without overthinking. Because if you're meant to do that thing, then you're meant to do that thing. And it might take a little bit of overcoming some stuff, but if that is what your story is written as, then that's what it's written as. So I'm not leaving you with any words of advice, but hopefully the words I've already said are advice enough. But yeah, because I'm no expert, and I just have a lot of opinions and thoughts and personal stories and experiences and things that I am happy to share with you. And hopefully it resonates. Maybe it resonates, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you just want to know my business, and that's okay too. And yeah, I am here to bring the note to the table and say it out loud. And whatever happens after that, happens after that. So this was the first episode. Thank you guys for getting through this with me. It is great. And I am going to talk less with my hands. and I am excited to talk about more things like this with you guys. And I want to know, like, if you really enjoyed this video, I want to know. Also, if you really enjoyed this video, like it, subscribe, share it, and let me know all your thoughts. Let me enter the group chat in the comments. Enter the group chat in the comments, because we're all in this together. And so we should all talk about the thing that we're in together. All right, until next week. Bye.